Welcome, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Conversations That Matter. Today, with me for you is Debbie Simmons, phenomenal woman who I do hope that during this conversation will share with us the secret how she's managing so many beautiful things that she's carrying in her life. She's the CEO and founder of Anchor Point, that is serving the community with counseling and education, with a faith-driven leadership. She's mother of 9 and author of 2 books that are about the family, how to build healthy family, and she's absolutely aware we are not always perfect family. And today we will be talking about all those aspects of life that I believe we are all experiencing ups and downs. Debbie, welcome and thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you. It's going to be a fun time. I'm excited to be here.
I come with this kind of approach, asking is not costing. And since that approach landed in place, it shows how really wonderful situations we can experience in life, especially meeting inspiring people. And when we agreed we will have this conversation, I was also learning more about you. I just want to ask you, we will come more in depth into it during the conversation, but how it is to be a woman and to have so much passion and energy to do so many wonderful things that are not easy to manage.
That's a wonderful question. And you know what? I don't think about those things. If I thought about, oh my gosh, how much do I have to manage or whatever, I'd probably just crawl back in bed every day. So I would say from that perspective, it is really knowing what you're called to do, what God has put you on this earth to do, and then trusting Him and relying on Him each step of the way to help me figure out how to manage and prioritize and be prepared for what I need to be prepared for and make adjustments. Like last night, I had a son text late at night if they could come, him and his wife, and talk to me. And I was like, okay, where will that go on the schedule tomorrow? Because I want to help them out if I can, but God made time in there, and I just trust that. And so I would say, hey, it really is for me. It centers on knowing who I am and who I belong to and what His purpose is for me, and then just trying to faithfully walk that out. And it just, the opportunities just get bigger. So I don't even know. I just keep doing the little things and things to keep growing. So that's how that's worked my whole life.
Have you always been so close with God and His directions?
I really fell in love with him when I was in elementary school and just was so amazed that he could love me so much and that he would have died for me and that he provided a way for me to be with him for eternity. And I just was in awe of that. And I wanted that relationship. And so I've always pursued him since that time. Have there been moments in my life or periods in my life where I have like turned away or questioned or struggled with something? Yes, there's always those times. I think, when one of the big ones for me was when I got into college was that's the first time I was kind of on my own and trying to figure my own way. And I was like, I don't know about this God stuff. So let me kind of explore and did some exploration. You know what I find, and my husband uses this as an example, is that once you fall in love with Jesus, it's kind of like this rubber band goes around you and you can stretch and kind of go over here, but it brings you back and you stretch and it brings you back. And so it's like this secure anchor. And that's what I found is that has just always brought me back. And I guess what I've learned is that his word is true and he is faithful. And as long as I am faithful and leaning in, he shows up time and time and time again. And I just don't doubt that anymore. Earlier I would have struggled with different things in different situations. And now I go, okay, what are we here? What do I need to learn? How do I get through this? Help me figure my way, so that's how I've grown over the years.
What I have learned, and I believe that definitely it's the power of his,
Mm-hmm.
that the problem is not a problem, it's the opportunity. Like you say, that you may end up even to question the purpose, question your existence even.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
but the mindset and really leaning into just, okay, let's move on, let's go on. It's also very nicely aligning with the teaching. Worrying is not helping.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I think, for me, where all of that kind of was solidified for me was early on, we had wanted to get pregnant and had a hard time. And that caused me to question, my worth and was I a failure as a woman, as a wife, and all this. And then ultimately we got pregnant and we got pregnant with quads. And that was a journey. And our boys were born at 26 weeks. And at that point, medical technology was not around to save them. So they simply put them in my arms and I loved them and they passed into eternity. And that night in the hospital, when you got all like you want to plan a celebration, now you're planning funerals and like you've tried so hard. And
Mm,
I just remember laying there. And the question that comes up when we have a challenge that could be an opportunity is the question that resonates in us is the question of why. So, like, the question that rolled around to me was, why me? Why my boys? Why now? Why?
mm,
And God was like, I need you to give me your why. And I was like, why? Because I kind of like my why, because in tragedy or hard things, it's like the last thing you have to hold on to, right?
mm,
And so it's kind of your identity at that point. And I'm like, no. And he's like, give it to me. And I was like, okay, but like you've now taken my security blanket. So whatever I had left to hold on, now I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know my way through and I don't know how to get rid of my pain. And I, I'm stuck. And he said, ask a different question. So to get to the opportunity, I have to be willing to give up why. And I have to learn to ask the question, how do I survive? And when I ask that question, it comes down to breathing, which if we're breathing, we're alive. That's a good sign. And then the next piece is, what's the next best thing I can do?
mm,
It doesn't have to be a huge step and just be a little one, but what is it that I can do? So, for me, it may have been like pulling the covers off of my head, getting up and brushing my teeth and walking around for a few minutes and then going back to bed. That was it for the day. And then as I did that, God faithfully met me and he showed a light to what the next best step could be. And this
mm,
is how the healing process works as you just do this over and over again. And my faith muscle grows through that. And something really cool kind of happened is as I went through that, I was healing. And then the question became, what, how can I thrive? Because I didn't want to just survive. I didn't want to be the same person 30 plus years later, stuck in the same emotions and still, really just regretting life and everything. I wanted to be a person that lived and I could have joy and I could have hope and I could have all these things. And so that question of how do I thrive is a wonderful place to give God the opportunity to redeem your story, which he promises he will do And so I had chances to minister to people that lost children and lead grief groups. And ultimately, that's what took us on our journey of adoption for 9 children from hard backgrounds, and then on to plant Anchor Point and to build it. And it impacts thousands of families every year, on to writing books and things like that. All that happened because I went through those difficult things. But turn them into the opportunity you were talking about by using those questions. And those questions I use all the time, even now. Those are the questions when you get stuck or surprised
Absolutely.
in life. Mhm.
Quite often, mm, the way how we are dancing around this question, why, is also driven by our simple human being nature,
Mhm.
expectation,
Mhm.
wishes. We as a human, when we will create something in our mind, we are, I don't know if it will be right word, but egoistic. It's my dream, it must happen,
Mhm.
and we don't see anything around. And when the things are not happening, our world is crashing completely. And it's wonderful in one side, in a way, how we as a human beings have this inner power, and we need to sometimes get the scratches in life to understand how
Mhm.
much we have in us to do wonderful things, especially when we are talking about God's will.
Mhm.
To surrender, it's so amazing peace in mind
Mhm.
when it's your win when we wake up in the morning,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
And
very much so. And learning to surrender is a hard, hard thing because we like our stuff our way. So,
that's so true. There are so many opportunities in us. You wrote 2 books, The Perfectly Imperfect Family and The Heart of Legacy, Living Focused, Faithful, Fearless Life. So right now I would like to just bring attention to The Perfectly Imperfect Family. What
mhm.
was your drive to write this kind of book?
Okay, this particular book is not just solely authored by me. There's about 40 authors, so we all did pieces of it. But what it was all of us. I like to call us kind of affectionately the gray-haired group that has learned a lot about family and parenting, and all we did was write chapters so that those of them coming behind of us wouldn't have to experience it the hard way, and to know that, hey, it's okay. Give up this idea of parenting is going to be perfection,
Mm,
because your kids are going to prove to you that it's not. And I always like to tell people, we all think parenting is the one place that you have to have no training or anything to get yourself into. They'll let you take home a live human being from the hospital and you don't know jack about what you're doing. It's pretty amazing. So our kids
yes.
don't come with instruction manuals. It'd be really nice if they did, but they are the instruction manuals and we have to learn. So that means there's going to be a lot of trial and error. We always parent from the standpoint of what we saw,
Mm,
that we liked, or if we didn't like the parenting that we saw or experienced, then we'll do the opposite of it. And it could be that neither of those are the best for this particular child, or you're just going, it just doesn't work. So, this book is a compilation of wisdom from about 40 different people to say, here is the way to make your way in the world of parenting. And it's meant to be kind of a subject expert type thing. So, you don't have to go read it all the way through. You just go looking for the chapter that you're going, I'm going crazy. So, go find the chapter and read on it. So there's just wonderful tidbits in there. It's like the closest thing I could think of to an instruction manual for a family, for a mom, to be able to figure their way.
I believe these kind of books that not only one member of the family shall read, but as a whole family sit together and read page by page, each
Oh,
member
uh-huh.
by time, so that it can create a very different dynamic and engagement within the family. What is today, unfortunately, everybody are somehow functioning in silos. And
Mm-hmm.
even
Very.
if there are some troubles in the family, we will go individually for the therapy. We will go individually for search of some resources, or going into our individual tribe to, we think we are going to seek for advice, but actually we are just creating another circle of complaint. And
Yes.
that's not really supportive for creating the bond in the family. When we speak about the family, we can perceive it from two aspects: family that I came from and family that I enter.
Mm-hmm.
Where actually, from your experience, from your work with community,
Mm-hmm.
where the work, where the impact of family is beginning?
Oh, I think it's never ending because you know what? I was raised by parents or whoever I was raised by, and you know what? They did the best they could with what they had, with what they knew how. And you know what? They scarred me sometimes, right? They lost it or whatever, didn't behave well, and they apologized. And so I have potentially baggage that I carry with me. And if I haven't worked through my stuff, I'm going to carry that into my new relationships.
Mm,
And I'm going to carry that into parenting relationships. So, what happens when I get married and have children or adopt children and bring them in? Children are wonderful at being able to hit the spots where you're wounded the most. And all of that is they're just doing whatever they're doing. They're not being malicious, but it just tweaks you or sets something off or triggers some memory. And off I go because now I feel like it's a personal attack because I'm remembering all my other stuff, right? And so it all ties together. So when we do therapeutic family camps, like you said, you don't do it in isolation. We bring the whole family to camp for this specific purpose of working on connection, 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 because that is what is needed. And we spend a lot of times, we pull the parents separate some to do some specific training with them. But what we're focusing on with them is helping them understand that in order for me to be the parent that God has called me to be, I have to be willing to work through my stuff. And God gave me 9 children because I must have had a lot of stuff to work through because they hit it all. And so I have to be willing to stretch and grow. But I cannot lead or help my children walk through their stuff if I've not been willing to walk through mine first, because I can't take a kid anywhere I've not been willing to go. And so I think it all rolls and, I'm going to do the best I can as a parent. And I've had adult kids that are in their 20s say, you messed me up. And I'm like, I did the best I could with what I had. And now you are an adult. You get to take responsibility and choose how you live your life. So I'm sorry I didn't get it right 100% of the time. But the other thing we need to know is that resilience is taught not by perfection. Resilience is taught by it getting screwed up and then we fix it and bring it back together and we move forward together. So actually being imperfect and being willing to work in that mess actually makes for our kids to be stronger kids in the end. As long as we're healthy, we're healthy when we work through the stuff that we're doing. So I go, hey, it goes all the time because you're bringing your stuff and you're going to create more stuff. And so we've always got to be working on those things and valuing, we got to value the people in our lives and be willing to make the hard investments and do the hard work that I need to do to be able to help a child when he's losing it, and still see them as precious and not a personal attack on me.
People from the work perspective,
Mhm.
as leaders, we need to be aware To office are coming people with their own baggage, with their own cognitive map. And the role of leader is to understand, to learn, to
Mm-hmm.
sense where are the strong and weak points in our so-called kids, because employee are
Mm-hmm.
like a kid. One will say, no, we are adult. Yes, we are. And of course, I'm not saying we are fully responsible for them, but the principle of the leader is showing the way. Even
Mm-hmm.
if, like you, I love what you said, that I did what I could, but right now you are adult. Here is the address to library. Get the resources, read them, and learn how to become better if you don't like what you have, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
the adult responsibility for own development, and I really like that. We don't speak about that enough.
Mm.
Yes,
Yeah. And I
and
think we do, one of the things that we do within Anchor Point is, I think as a CEO, I get to help determine culture. And it's important for me with my staff that we value each other and that we value each other over even the task. So we're going to get the task done, but you know, most times breakdowns in staff happen because it's a breakdown in communication somewhere in there, and someone's assumed something or it hurt their feelings or what something happened. And so we have to be committed to to say, hey, no, wait, let's put the task down and let's work on the relationships because we value each other. And there's been plenty of time where something got a little tweaked and I got someone on the phone and I'm like, I'm coming up there. Don't you leave. We're going to work through this because it's way more important than getting the task done is valuing the people and getting on the same page so you can move forward together. And that's just, that's got to be wired into the leader, and it's not because I see them necessarily as my children, but I value people.
mm,
And if you value people, then it's going to be important. And so I go, hey, yeah, there are a lot of people to manage and stuff like that. And they are adults, but I'm going, I truly value people. And if we value people, then we'll do the things that we need to do to lift those relationships up, even if it's hard. It requires hard work on my part, hard work on their part. But then I need them to do the same thing for the people that are working with them or the volunteers or the clients I get to deal with. I need them to value. So they're going to model what they see, right? And so,
absolutely.
yeah, so it starts at the top. And if you're the top, you got to make sure it's right. So,
We can talk a lot, but if we behave opposite, then people
mhm,
also see that. And even in the family, we can see these kind of differences. And it's very important, especially for young people, when they are getting into the relationships, right? New,
mhm,
not only love relationships, but friendships. We are
mhm,
not really taught to pay attention. We like noise. We get used to
mhm.
noise because the
Yeah.
world has created noise. So we follow louder music and we follow without process of thinking to be activated. And I think if we will focus for a moment and see, is there any integration between spoken word and done action, we could
Mhm.
save ourselves quite a lot of time.
Yeah,
and,
and a
and
lot of
like
rework. Yeah.
exactly, like value people. It sounds so simple. Why it is so difficult for people?
Oh, I think it's because it's messy. Nobody wants messy, and messy is hard, right? It's hard to go, like if someone has an issue with me and they go, hey, boss, I need you to listen to me. And, I could snap or I could do all kinds of things. Now, I usually am pretty good about like, okay, don't have this in the hallway with me as you're passing
Mm,
me, but say, hey, I need to have a serious conversation with you so that I can stop and I can focus, and go, okay, I'm listening. You got my full attention, and then they can say, and it matters how I respond, right? And if I respond and go, no way, there's no way that happened, then I'm going to shut down things, but it's messy and it can be painful because you're in a very vulnerable spot. Either way, on either side of the conversation, you're a very vulnerable spot. And how we handle that, being the other person, is either going to make or break kind of the relationship, right? And so, who likes to, have people call them bad names? And who likes to, have people go talk about you behind your back? Nobody likes the messy that life has. But if we can figure our way through the messy to something better, then it is so much more powerful. And so it's worth it. And people have been kind enough to me through the years to stick with me through my messy. And so it's my honor to be able to do that for this circle of people that God puts in my life, to kind of create that same bridge, that same opportunity for them to get healing and to be able to grow and to ultimately thrive into the people that God's called them to be.
To manage the mess, we need to have the right equipments.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we are afraid to enter the messy zone because we know deeply in us we have gaps? We don't have all toolbox. We are
Mm-hmm.
here with the face, very serious facade, but we will not enter that mess because I don't have right tools. Do you think
Mm.
it's a kind of way of protection?
Well, I think, well, first of all, you don't get right tools until you try things out. And so you got to be willing to get in there. And like you take children with trauma backgrounds, okay? Children that have been hurt by people, like when they came into
Mm.
our home, they don't know whether they should trust you or not because the people who were supposed to love them have hurt them. And so they're just going, "Are you going to hurt me too?" And so before you hurt me, I'm going to try out all my good things and see if you like me. And if you do, then I'm going to go, okay, it's safe with her if I'm good. Then I'm going to try all my bad things because people have turned me away, pushed me back, put me back in the system, whatever it is, or abused me, whatever, when I've been bad. So I need to see if you're going to still like me and love me. And
This will
so
be
they
their criteria.
Right. So what they're doing is they're trying everything to see if you're going to reject them. Well, that can be a long time. It's not fun to work through
Mm-hmm.
that. But if I stay steady and I'm like, I'm still here. I'm still here. I am for you. I like being with you. Even when you're, even when you're being mean to me, I am still here. I am going to be here.
Mm.
After they've done all of that testing, what that child can then do is they go, they love me when I'm good. They love me when I'm bad. They were a solid rock. They never moved, right? You never gave, I was always there. And
Yes.
then the child goes, okay, I can maybe risk giving you my heart because when I gave it before, they hurt me. And
Mm.
so they've got all these protection mechanisms, right, that you got to work your way through. And each child has different time periods. Well, the same thing applies in relationships at work or with friends and stuff like that. We don't want people to not love us, and so we want to look like we have it all together. But it's actually powerful if I'm in a relationship with a staff member and we're struggling through something, and I go, I don't know. I don't know how to solve this problem, but I do know the person who does, and that's God, and we're going to count on him.
Right?
Or let's go get this information. We'll figure it out together. And that is super powerful, to be going, hey, we don't have to have it all together. We'll go together. I'll help you. We'll do it together and we'll figure it out. And that's an okay place. It actually, if I admit that I don't have it all together and I'm not perfect and I lose it and I might not have all the tools, then that actually increases integrity
Mm.
in the relationship because I've been willing to be vulnerable too. Because, my kids, when they come in my house, they go, "You're perfect all the time." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." But if they never see it or they never experience it, then in their minds, we are. And we know it's not true, and so helping them see glimpses of me as a human, is actually a good thing for them, because they're going in their heads, they're going, I don't have it all together. I don't know how to
Mm.
do this. This is a big world. This is a scary world. And mom seems to always get it right and always have it together. And she doesn't. I know that, but they're just looking up going, well, you just seem like you do because you always figure it out. I'm like, oh yeah, but you missed all the crying that went on before I got it all together. Or I don't know how to solve that. Let's figure it out, and we'll go figure it out, and I'll do it with you. And so I think that's more than just a specific tool, is just the willingness to be vulnerable and enter in is the most powerful tools. And really what we need is we need courage, and we need to be
Oh,
brave.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely, it's a beautiful, beautiful word. I love it personally, this word, courage. With the family, we are losing this, again, maybe driven by the expectation. When we are in a relationship, we're supposed to be closer. How it's possible that we
Mm.
are going into opposite direction?
I think that's because they become adults and they have their own free will. But it's actually good. They grow up. So the dependence that we have at the beginning is very different because they need me to help provide for them. Well, one of my jobs is to teach them how to
Mm.
become self sufficient and how to be able to make good decisions. Because if I don't teach them how to think and choose and to have their values that they are holding on to, the world is going to give them a whipping that's going to take them out. So as we raise up these independent adults, they somehow have opinions, and they decide that, mom, you're not so smart for a little while. But what I've seen is, if I can help launch them onto their next phase, and I have worked really, really hard on the connection part. The connection part is what I have as we move into the adult years. And
Mm.
we know that when they get out of my home, I think I'm like batting 1,000 for children that hit 18 and know it all. And I'm like, okay, let me know how that goes. And, when they run into a challenge, we want to be the place that they go, oh, I know I can get truth there.
Mm.
I know they will love me. I know that no matter, my kids know that no matter where they are, what they have done, that I will still love them. I might not agree with all of it, but I still love them. So I'll visit them anywhere, right? I have some choices as to where I would like to visit, but if you end up in jail, I'll come see you in jail. I don't want you there. But as an adult, you get to make certain choices, right? But I want the heartstrings that keep us connected. So I had a daughter that struggled with drug addiction and lived on the streets for about 6 years. And she regularly would check in with us. And then she ended up in psych hospitals, in and out, and different things. And I always wondered if we are going to hit bottom. But
Mm.
we stayed in the relationship with her, even though it was very challenging. And when she was finally ready, she called, and I was like, are you ready to go to rehab? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, okay, then we're going to go. And so we went together, and I would go, that child is a blessing to be around now, but it was very hard. But
Mm.
I knew that this is the child God's given me. And if I don't see her preciousness and work to call that out of her, the world will eat her alive, and we would lose her to the world, and she might not even be here. And she's been sober for 2.5 years, and she's holding a job, and she's doing the things that she should have done years ago.
That's
Um,
wonderful.
but
Congratulations to you
yeah,
and to your daughter.
yeah. Well, she did the hard work, but her journey, she gets to determine, right? And so that is what I think, is going on as these little people grow up, they become very independent. And, I'm like, bummer. You get to make your decisions, and we get to go along for the ride. So that's where our parenting role changes, and prayer
Quite a
really
lot.
comes. Yeah, prayer, just pray for those kiddos and know that God loves them more than we do. And He'll give us the ability to deal with them.
So from what you say, we also do have various emotional attachment between
Hmm.
parents and the kids.
Hmm.
You are sharing right now, they grew up, they want to go their own way,
Hmm.
and we're supposed to take the right role in it. But we also do have families where the emotional attachment is quite strong, which not always is actually healthy.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
What kind
Yeah.
of
So,
advice you would give here to balance that, to help people to understand the balance is needed?
yeah. So what I like to say is, I like to say you have to have high structure, but you also have to have high nurture. So your kids need both to feel safe. Okay.
Mhm.
And if it's all nurture, 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 then we end up kind of rescuing all the time. And our kids, so it's like we never want our kids to fail or experience hard things. And I would challenge us that the safest place to experience hard things is in your house where you are the safe adult to help them walk through it. And so we have to do that hard work of high nurture, high structure so that the world, I mean, if they behave that way out in the world and I'm not around, or they get picked up by a police officer, how much influence can I have at that point, right? Or
Yes.
something else happens, then the world is very mean. It can be a very mean place. And so
Mm.
while it is hard in these early years to bring that structure in sometimes for some people, it is the structure and the nurture together that is the most powerful for creating kids that can learn to live outside of your home and be successful in this world. And it's absolutely imperative. If not, the world is
Very-
going to be a hard place.
the like you say, the world is mean, and it's
Hmm.
actually not good if we are creating in the house this kind of gold bubble, and
Yes.
indeed kids are just likely out of the house and returning very quickly because they are not capable even to
Hmm.
communicate correctly.
Yes.
And in your book, you are talking about the perfectly imperfect family. And since we are having this conversation about kids going outside and communication, let us just bring maybe outside the kids, but among adults in the family, among married people. Communication. Can you tell us what is the power of experiencing the presence of God in a family, helping to create healthy communication in the house?
Mm, okay. So, first of all, I think each of us as adults need to be healthy, right? And we need a strong relationship with God. And
Mm.
then as a couple, we need a committed journey together that we're on. Doesn't mean we're always in the same place, but because usually one of us is growing and the other one's coming along, and then the other one gets ahead and the other one comes along. That's just kind of how spiritual growth kind of ebbs and flows. But, if we are committed to seeking and following God, then what that is going to do, it's going to set the tone for everything that flows out of us to flow through the house because we get to lead in that endeavor. My husband gets to lead in that endeavor. And so, you know, does it, we believe that the fruits, what we call the fruits of the spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self control, those are pretty
Mm-hmm.
good things. If those flow out of me because of my relationship with God and the work that He is doing on me, if those things flow out of me, they create an atmosphere of warmth and acceptance. And it doesn't mean we get away with everything, but it's a environment of grace. And if I have experienced grace from God Himself over my junk, then I get the opportunity as a parent to let that flow down and it give them the ability to experience grace the same way that I have from God, so that they will ultimately have a relationship with God, because that's what we want. So this is just, thinking through and being intentional about how we walk out our lives on a daily level, and God says, keep scripture in front of you, keep your eyes on Jesus, do all these things. And so, you know, do I get up in the morning and just get on my phone, or do I find me some a quiet space where I can read some Bible and have a conversation with God and kind of set my day? And then, like when my grandkids were over the other day, I'm like, let's go for a walk. And so we're going for a walk, and how can I bring God into that conversation just so it begins to spark interest on their part? And I'm like, hey, can somebody tell me something that God has made around here that we see while we're walking? And so they're
That's
going, and
beautiful.
they're 5 and 4 and 3 years old, and they're like, hmm, the tree. I said, yes, God made the tree. And then so we're going on, and I said, oh, I see something that God made. And they're like, what? And I said, you, he made you. Oh yeah,
That's
and then
beautiful.
yeah, so we're just looking for ways to teach, or when my grandkids get overwhelmed and scared because the light is off or something, little. And I'm like, when we're overwhelmed or when we're scared, what do we say? And it's Jesus, help me. Jesus, take care of the dark. Jesus, take care of the scary thing. Jesus, take
Mm,
my heart. Jesus, take care of my sadness, because we want to teach them to learn to depend on the right place. And so, if we can just look for ways to create that environment, it opens up a level of communication on a whole new level, to have a much deeper and richer relationship. But that happens because we're intentional. So, when my grandkids are here, I got to put down my phone.
mm,
Or they may, at their houses, they may spend a lot of time on
yes.
TV. They know when they get to grandma's, we don't turn the TV on hardly at all, because we are playing and doing and experiencing life together. Because I'm going, y'all become zombies with the TV. I'm like, no, you can't do that. We gotta have some fun, have joy. And so what can I do to, just pour into them while I have the opportunity? Because that's my responsibility as the adult, is pour into them, plant positive seeds, and just love them and leave them a bridge to Jesus is really the roles that we take in our family. Those are the things that I can control. Um, and I want to do that as well as I can, because I love those grandkids. I love my kids, and I want them to be with me for eternity. So that's what we should do. And I love other kids. If other people need grandmas, I'm available. I'm like, I'll come over and play with your kid. So, and let's talk about Jesus, right? What's he doing? What did he make out there? The bug, the tree, whatever it is.
That was my experience when I have observed so many families that are having God in their life.
Hmm.
Their intention is different
Yeah. Hmm.
than us living day by day.
Hmm.
Intention, I would rather say focus on us. What is my intention, benefit for today, from today I want to achieve? When I see those families, when they pray together, they speak together, they experience this going out for the groups, it's
Hmm.
somehow making the space, common space, fulfilled with something valuable. And
Hmm.
automatically it's committing them to each other to create a common intention,
Hmm.
not
Yeah. So,
my
yeah.
own
So,
individual.
right. Yeah. Well, we want our own individual too, but we
Mhm.
know there is power in a strong unit, and learning to walk through good things and
Yes.
challenging things together. And I remember one time when a teacher called CPS because of something that my daughter said at school. This was Child Protective Services. And so we got a wonderful call from Child Protective Services accusing my husband of something which was not true, but the teacher had heard it, was concerned,
Mm.
and reported it. Well, I remember going home that night, and my husband is, kind of freaking out because this is serious.
Yes.
And my deal was for the child who had said something, I did not want the other children to isolate, and be angry with this child because the child did not understand what they did. So it's a growing opportunity, right? It's one of those opportunities. It's not a problem, it's an opportunity.
Mm.
It's a complicated
Mm.
one, but it's an opportunity. So I remember when I got home, we had a family meeting and I was like, I don't know how we're going to get through this, but I do know this. I do know that God's going to make a way for us to do this. And
Mm.
so we're going to pull together as a family, and, it's not a problem that it happened, but we're going to figure our way. And so there's some things they need to learn about what they say or don't say at school. And so that was an education. But I said also, mom and dad are going to do what we need to do to take care of us. And, you know, CPS coming into our lives with kids that have been taken away before is a highly traumatic
Mm.
experience to experience again. And I'm like, mom and dad we're gonna figure it out. And it's not gonna mess up anything. We're gonna figure our way through this and we'll do it. And ultimately in the end, the only thing I could think to do was in a difficult situation is, well, we prayed, but then the other thing is we just turned on children's kind of worship music and we just praised Jesus and loved Jesus and had Jesus dances. And we're like, okay, we're trusting you and you're going to show us the way. And that was such a wonderful experience for bonding us in a difficult thing. And it took
Mm.
us several weeks to walk through all of it, but it gave us the right perspective. And so, that's what we as adults get the opportunity, if we can think clearly, and not get caught up in the emotion and the, since the kind of sensation of it all, but we can stay grounded, then we can create an atmosphere where our kids can learn how to walk through difficult things well. And that's what we
Yes.
want to do with them. And so it wasn't our most pleasant experience. However, it was a good experience and it was
This
a good growing
is,
opportunity.
if we give time, quite often from these negative situations, there are beautiful, positive outcomes,
Hmm.
even
Hmm.
bigger than we are able to expect. Independency, have own passion, have own time, have this, the individual
Hmm.
aspects, purpose, not only what my husband says, I will go, what my wife says, I will go. It should be this family connection as a roof of the house. And
Hmm.
under the roof, let's move some walls from time to time.
Hmm.
Yes?
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
and I think my husband looks, as a spiritual leader in our home, one of the things he has to uh, answer for is, God has gifted me certain ways and given me lots of opportunities, and he gets to bless and support that,
mm,
which are maybe not the things that he wants to do necessarily, but he feels like, he has to help steward the gifts that I have or my children have, to help us all be the absolute best that we can be. And so that requires, like you said, that mutual working together, because you don't start a nonprofit and it not take up some family time, right? And so
absolutely.
started that, we had to all be committed to it. Mom's way more committed than anybody else since she works there. But, it required other people coming alongside, even if it wasn't their favorite thing to do for the day sometimes, but to do it as a family. And then also to pursue other things that worked for other people at
Mm.
different times. So,
As you say, even be aware people are coming with the baggage. Not forget about that. Value other human being. Not forget what make us close to each other. Yes, and why we are here. Communication and alignment with intention. To be
hmm.
aware that we do have a right intention, not
Hmm.
selfish, unhealthy selfish intention. Your recent book that was published in February or in March, please remind me.
March.
March 12th. Do I remember
Hmm.
that right?
It's right. Yeah, right. I can't even remember anymore. There's been so I think it was the
The
8th or
heart
something
of, yes,
on
the
there.
heart of legacy, living focused,
Yeah.
faithful, and fearless life. Before it was a chapter, right now it's your full book.
Hmm. Hmm.
What
Yeah.
was your
Yes.
drive to
So
bring?
this book, this is a great question. So this book, it comes out of the story of losing my boys and kind of one of the things that God just has put on my plate to do. And he actually challenged me to write it about 6 or 7 years ago. And I was like, no, are you kidding me? And I finally was obedient and I just put everything on the paper and I saved the document and I closed the lid on the computer and I said, great, I'm done with that. Let's just put that up now. And promptly forgot about it. And then periodically I just remember it. And then about a year and a half ago, he was like, it's time to get the book out and we're going to finish it. And I'm like, no, not really. I said, that means I got to tell my story. And when I tell my story, it means I got to be vulnerable and like vulnerable to the world. I mean, it's not like vulnerable to the safety little group, but to the
Yes.
world. And I'm like, are you for real? And like, he's like, yeah. And I'm like, there was this whole kind of imposter syndrome thing. Like, is there anything valuable
Hmm.
that I say? And he just wouldn't relent. And so I finally was like, okay, God, this is just my gift to you then. And if the only person who buys a copy is me, that's great. But I will have done it. So it's been an actual joy to go through the process. And it really is my story of learning to give up my why, ask how do I survive and how do I thrive, and learning to see my faith muscle grow and to trust him as we've gone through our journey. So it is that gift to help people see that, hey, if I can do it, they can do it. And the center of the book is all about application, how you can be focused, how you can be faithful, how you can be fearless. And there's wonderful ideas in there to help you think about how you can live your life with intention, because we need to live our legacies now so that we leave a legacy later. Because if we just let life pass us by, then we'll have a legacy, but it won't be impactful probably.
Yes.
If we live with intention now, then we can leave something significant that can continue to impact people for decades and years after we're gone. And so that's what, that's why like building anchor point and being obedient in that is so important, because that's going to be something that lasts way after I have passed on and is still impacting people. And
Yes.
it gives legacy to my boys, and it my legacy, and it still
It's
reaches
there.
into, yeah. And so that's what that book is about, is to say, hey, we can all do this. We don't want to be stuck. We want to be unstuck people making an impact, and we want to stay unstuck because life is going to be hard. And so we still need to be able to be impact players for God and make a difference. And that's what that book is all about, is to encourage people and challenge them to go, you can do this.
We need this additional, but from different angle, support to empower our minds for action. Because, like you say, the imposter syndrome, it's
Hmm.
not a really difficult to experience this feeling, because when we are looking into the world, the big beauty is around, overwhelmed with money. Only then something is accepted. And then, oh, we think, oh, we are only little one human. No one will see me. To whom it will have the value? And I think here we are making a huge mistake, that we think and we give a power to other people
Hmm.
over what actually we have something in our heart, in our mind we wish to do, but we don't, because we are afraid how the public opinion will be
Yeah.
shaped around. how was about the starting the anchor point? Because I believe that was the huge movement in your life. And what I see, you do so much. You are such an
Mhm,
inspiring woman. You are taking
mhm,
care of so many people, especially women.
mhm.
It's a really beautiful thing what you do. Can you tell us what was the power behind?
Well,
And
it's always God, okay? But I will tell you this is that I am not always the fastest to obedience. So he planted the seed, and I was like, no. I'm like, I have 7 kids at that time. I have a mission field in my home. I work in ministry. I run prison ministry work across 4 states for a large nonprofit at that time. And I'm going, no, go find someone else because I'm tired. And so this was my plan, right? Now, I've gotten wiser and realized that I can't outlast God most time. He's going to outlast me, But I held on for a little while, and what happened was God allowed my job at the ministry that I was working at to disappear in about a week, and I loved that job, and it was so painful
Mm,
and because I had not been obedient. And I could have transitioned out. I could have done all kinds of things, right, to move myself in the direction that he needed me to move. So after all the dust settles over that particular job, um, he's like, "Do you have time now?" And I'm like, yes, I got time. I'll do what you want me to do. I'll surrender. And it did. It cost lots of
mm,
money, lots of time, lots of hours. And, I was in that situation where I'm asking I started with the why. That's why I held on so long, right? I got rid of the why. And then I'm like, how in the heck do I survive this? I don't know how to do this, And so I started asking, how do I get through this? How do I survive this? And I don't know how to build a nonprofit. I don't have a clue. And so I just start going. And I had a friend that came alongside and we started doing it together. And then eventually we've got like 3 years under our belt and we're like, oh, now we've like,
beautiful
made it
years,
longer
huh?
than most people, right? And then eventually it's like, okay, how do we make this thing thrive? Like really grow and continue to impact people. And I would just say I'm a person that believes that we have more work to do always. And so our job as leaders is to figure out how to empower people to do the stuff that we're doing so we can go help more
Oh,
people. And
yes. Like
yeah,
I'm preparing you. So when you are ready, I can leave you and I can move on and
yeah,
find another opportunities and another creation. I love that.
yeah. So we just did it in the organization. We just keep building different things in the organization and widening the impact and everything. And it's been a blessing watching those ladies grow and come, you know, rise as leaders and everything. And, the question, I had a really wise guy that was involved with us early on. He was a corporate banker, had ran
Mm.
many banks and started many and stuff like that. And he would always come around and he would say, Miss Debbie, how's Anchor Point doing? And how would it do if you weren't here? And he'd ask me that about once a month. And I'd be like, I'd totally fall apart right now. And then later on, I would be like, well, this section can run itself. It's doing really good, requires very little of my help. They'd have a little bit of a hiccup, but they could keep going. This
Mm.
section over here, it's going to fall apart. So I got to keep building it. But he taught me, to have this builder mindset all the time and to prepare the organization for if one of us isn't here,
Mm.
how to keep on going. Because it just, if we move or transition jobs or someone passes away, we want to be able to, the ministry to be able to continue. And so, how are we going to do that? And so, his questions were not always the most comfortable, but they were really good for making me think. And so now, even now, I'm getting older not near wanting to leave, but, as a CEO and a founder, how do we make a plan
Mm,
that pulls someone else in that can take over the reins and carry on the ministry and the impact
mm,
when it's time for me to transition out? Because it's very hard for organizations to have the founder leave.
yes.
And so we need to be very conscientious of that and make a plan that works. And so he's always had me thinking, how do I do this and how do I do it well? And that's the God honoring thing that we want to do.
It's incredible. When you were coming to the agreement that fine, right now I have time, I can help you with anchor point.
Yeah.
Did you know from the beginning that the core will be faith-driven leadership, that approach that you will apply?
Yeah. There was no, first of all, if God didn't build this, it doesn't happen.
Okay.
So there's no choice but for it to be God ordained and God led. And if he's choosing me to help be part of that, that is how I'm wired, right? But I mean, it truly would not be successful without God's hand on it and God opening and closing the doors and us being willing to move with, because it's his work and we just get to participate in it.
Mm,
So it's been a real pleasure to be able to do that and to serve that way. But I mean, it is his ministry. It is, if you read James 1:27, it says to look after the orphan and the widows, and that's true religion. And that's right in the heartbeat of what God wants us to do. So it's like, okay, God, we'll do it. Now you show us how. And he has been faithful over and over and over again. And we talk about that in the book, is that, my husband and I really should be destitute and broke with all these children and doing a ministry and all that. And he has always provided for us,
in
you know.
practice, what is it? How does it look like, the faith-driven leadership?
hmm So I would say, first of all, is we declare from the beginning that the Bible is truth. And so
Okay.
we're going to bounce everything off of the Bible. So if there's if you have core values, if you have statements of faith, they're all centered on the Bible, and the Bible can back it up. And this is how we choose to run this organization. And then it is a matter of the people that you bring into the organization. So if you bring someone in the organization that doesn't love Jesus and doesn't value the statement of faith, that's a mistake. And so we only hire people that are committed to that. We serve everyone, but we're committed to that as an organization because it will make or break the organization. And so, from the top down, we all love Jesus and we're all trying to follow him. We believe the Bible is God's word and it's going to be what we base everything on. And so your board of directors really hold that vision and they hold it tightly. And you have to guard that because there's always a lot of opportunity to try and drift off of these values, and you just have to hold them high. And so that's what we do. We
Among
don't.
among people that are having shared vision, there will be always some conflicts. So
Mhm.
if we can imagine people who do not have the
Yeah.
baseline for the shared
Mhm.
vision, it can even come to the bigger conflicts that
Oh yeah.
will lead to much bigger damages actually
Yeah.
within the organization. The
It'll kill the
three,
it'll kill the organization.
yes.
It really will. And so that's why you have to guard it so closely and value it so highly and be committed to it.
You are supporting women who are going through, unfortunately, difficulties in life.
Mhm.
You are, what I could understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you are also with your work, with the support, the system that you are building, you are also showing women that the baby has value and that abortion is not always a choice. There are other choices that can
Mhm.
bring more beautiful things into life. Can you
Mhm.
tell us, how did you build a system that supports so many women?
Hmm. Yeah. So we just started one piece at a time. If you've ever heard the phrase of you eat the elephant one bite at a time, that's all we do. We just like slowly accomplish the objectives. But the truth is that our ultimate goal is to help families thrive.
Mm,
So I like to think of it as we want to raise the tide of parenting so that our communities are stronger because they're only as strong as the weakest family. And so we have a lot of things that we can do in that. So we obviously start with girls that find themselves in a pregnancy situation and they don't know what to do, and they're overwhelmed and they're shocked and their life is turned upside down. And so what we do is just come alongside them and love them and give them the medical education that they need to go, oh, is it a viable pregnancy? Hear the heartbeat, to see the
mhm,
baby, to realize that, what sometimes culture tells us is just a lump is actually a human being inside of you. And while I can't make the girl's choice for her, what I do know is if I create a safe environment where she can process through her stuff and we can see her preciousness and we can love on her, then if she feels safe, we can just educate her on medical stuff and just this is how life
mm,
starts. This is this. And I will tell you that every woman who gets pregnant, and no matter the situation, at some point there's a little glimpse of hope. And if we can find that, because God has wired women to have children. And so it is in us. It's this birthing that happens, right? And so what we want to do is we just want to create a safe environment where she can process and think through. And most women, when they just know that they are supported and they are loved, then they want to be a good mom. They don't want
mm.
to they don't want to do an abortion.
So you,
An abortion is a desperate measure that they take in an emotional state. So if we can come alongside them with resources, with materials, with help with jobs or medical or anything that they need, then we begin to just can't do it for them because we can't raise their kids, but we can
of
walk
course.
alongside them and go, okay, have you thought about this? Let's make a plan to do this. And we'll come alongside you and help with this. So you go do that. Let's get back together.
Mm,
Let's do this. And that's the way we walk through it. Just helping them learn how to eat their own elephants one bite at a time. And even giving them the ability to go, okay, where's baby daddy? He's equally important. Bring him here and let's have men invest in his life because you know what, more than likely he was didn't have a father in the home, or it was, his father was absent. And these guys need to know how to be men and they need to know how to be dads, and they need healthy men investing in them. So we bring men that come alongside these guys, do education classes, we do all kinds of great stuff to help them figure their way. And then we have a maternity home for girls that are homeless, as a way for them to have a safe place to lay their heads. And, you're looking at jobs, you're looking at all kinds of things that, what does it take for you to be successful? To be able to raise your baby, provide for your baby, provide housing, do all the things. What does it take for you to be able to do that? And let's help you walk toward that because somebody helped me out throughout my life. And it's our chance to help somebody else out. And we work with adoptive families, that have children that are struggling. So that's where we do therapeutic camps in the summer, to help those families know how to see the preciousness in their child and be able to do it. And then we have recovery groups. So if a woman has experienced abortion or sexual abuse or trauma in general, then there are support groups that walk them through the healing process because God wants to redeem those stories and use those women. And a lot of them have been struggling with those things for decades. And
Yes.
we want to see freedom. So that's what we do.
There is this saying that we all are having equal chances. I disagree because sometimes we are born in more favorable conditions, sometimes we are not. And those conditions will shape how we will go through life, what kind of choices we will make. Like you mentioned about when the young girl, woman is pregnant and there is no boy, you are teaching them, where is the boy? Oh,
Hmm.
he's not there. No, and it's it's like ignorance from her side, but bringing this attention, healthy attention. No,
Hmm.
let me show you it's important. And then another part, a boy who most probably has own
Hmm.
inabilities to understand how family can function, how to be responsible.
Hmm. Yeah, and they don't know. We just don't know. That's that. We don't have a parenting book, right? And
Yes.
now you're in this situation, and now we gotta figure our way. So we need safe, healthy people loving us that will encourage us and challenge us to do the next best step and to be the parents that we need to be. I have never had a girl or a guy tell me that they didn't want to be a good parent. They always want
Mm.
to they always want to be a good parent. And then the question then becomes, well, you do know that if you want to be a good parent does what's best for the child. And
Mm.
that means you might need to change. You might need to get a job. You
It's
might
like
need to, and but
I,
they all want to be good parents. So let's tie into that goal and go, this is what good parents do. You just don't understand. And so let's help you. And most of them are extremely open and willing to learn and love that people love them and are willing to invest in them and come alongside them, pray for them, and create an environment where they can be successful, where maybe they've never had that environment before at all.
but here I have a question because on one of your speeches you have said you perceive the life black and white. But in the work that you are doing, I can imagine there might be areas maybe brought by people full of gray.
Hmm. Yeah.
How are you then balancing your perspective, your perception, black and white,
Mhm.
and yeah, managing the gray part?
Well, it's a very fine line, but the reality is we know as an organization and we know as individuals that are running the organization and living it out where we stand, right? And it's a very black and white issue, and we are very much for people and for life. Okay, and so that's never a bad place to be from. Okay, is to be in that spot. We do clearly understand that when a client comes to us, we do not get to make the decision for her. Okay.
Hmm.
She has free will, just like my kiddos do, right? And she
Okay.
can ultimately make her choice. Okay. But what I found is over and over again, I'll tell you that if you create a safe place, you love on her, and she gets into the prefrontal cortex of her brain where she can think and she's not just emotional, she does not want to end the life of that child.
Hmm.
She doesn't. And because we as women are not wired that way. So the fact that she just comes in to do an ultrasound and she sits down and she is so loved and so cherished and is given the chance to just talk through her stuff. And we know the more people can talk through stuff and you're just asking good questions, they will get to a good answer generally if they just keep talking to themselves, because they're just processing everything. And then we just come alongside of her and love her and educate her and pray for her, follow up with her, and that is so radically different than the way the world treats her that it's contagious. And 85% of the girls that come in will choose life just because they're loved.
in the internet. We can see the headers, and there are various movements all over the world.
Yeah.
And indeed, there is more to see. People are invited to easy solutions in life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's not only about this kind of very, very personal matter, but even the style of life, easy
Yep.
solutions. There is
Mm-hmm.
no, we are deviating a bit from getting into the depth, getting into connection with other people. And yes, the dialogue with God is a great way to
Mm-hmm.
start, definitely.
And you do need to know that let's say she comes and she's with us and she ultimately still leaves and chooses to have an abortion. We are still going to follow up with her.
Mm,
She's going to still know that she is deeply loved, because I guarantee you that if things don't change, she will either need that abortion recovery group later because she's struggling with the decision she's made, or she's going to end up pregnant again. And when she
mm,
ends up pregnant again, I want to be top of mind for where she thinks to go.
mm.
And because she felt loved and she felt cherished. And I'm telling you, it happens a lot. People come and they make that type of decision and they end up pregnant again and they
It's
cry.
like really
Yeah.
wonderfully, you are giving people also opportunity to
Hmm.
learn skills for life, because
Hmm.
we are having a burden of yeah, the family patterns, behavioral patterns.
Hmm.
And like we will have, especially young generation, that they do not really think on the second layer. They are
Hmm.
just driven with the fun, not necessarily thinking about the consequences and how it will have an impact on their life. And what I hear your uncle point is really giving a complex access, not only to
Hmm.
care, but yeah, multidimensional education,
Hmm.
love.
Yeah, you got their mental health built in there. Everything is you're in the space with them.
Mm,
And that is all encompassing, right? And
beautiful.
so we get the privilege of holding a sacred space for this person, and to help them figure their way. And that's a privilege. And it's hard, but it's a privilege.
I have prepared for myself just your quote. Our kids may not come with an instructional manual, but they do teach us everything we need to grow. This is how
Hmm.
we started our
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
And as 2 days ago we had a Kids' Day, Child's Day. We are all children of the earth.
Hmm.
And value yourself, value those who are in front of you, next to you.
Hmm.
Before we finish, I would like to ask you, what will be your message to the world?
I would say Jesus first. That would be the one thing. But you know what he really has placed in me is this idea of challenging, encouraging people that we don't have to stay stuck. So get unstuck and stay unstuck and do the things that he's called us to do, to be the impact players, because we all have something important to give the world or we wouldn't be here. So this idea of getting unstuck and being impact players, for God and for our communities and for the world, it just makes the world a better place when we are all living up to the potential that we have in us.
That's so
So
beautiful.
yeah. So that's me.
Beautiful.
That's the question you're going to get with me is, hey, what's going on? How are you growing? How are you? How are you doing? Tell me how you're doing. Very,
So,
very.
as Debbie said, don't get stuck. Move on. You have it. Don't miss life, because I'm sure, and also as Debbie says, you are having the message, intention, and power to share to other people. You,
Mhm.
your beauty, your wisdom. Thank you very much, Debbie, for this wonderful conversation. Dear audience, please share with us what is your relation with God? What is your relation with other people? How did you overcome conflict with your friendship, with your parents, with your relationship? Many questions, because one question maybe not be good for everyone. Share with us your story, and you can grab the book from Debbie on link in description. You can also reach Anchor Point. Link there is for you. If you need to speak with Debbie or with one of her team members, or you are seeking any support, then just feel free to connect Anchor Point and Debbie Simmons. Thank you very much, Debbie.
Yes, it's been a pleasure.